Hello again, or hello for the first time if you haven't watched my previous videos, which is likely considering that was a while ago. I've been unable to make videos or work on the game for the past few weeks, and if you've seen my community post you know why. But to summarize, I got a muscle issue a few weeks back. Nothing serious, just some repetitive strain injury from sitting in front of a computer all day. That's been sorted out and most of the pain is gone, but I still had trouble going back to work after such a long break. In the meantime, I've been doing other things, like playing through Baldur's Gate 3 and painting miniatures, which was very refreshing since I haven't done that in a long time. It was really hard for me to get into a productive mindset after all this, and I've been neglecting most of the stuff I'd consider work, and it's going to take me even longer before I can make a new devlog. I have some topics to cover in them, but all of them would require quite long and more importantly well-researched scripts, and I'm not sure if I'm focused enough just yet for that kind of work. So instead, I thought a progress update would be a good replacement in the meantime, as there are some features I didn't get to show you in any of my videos. For starters, I think I should update you on the Bulltle. After making the model, I also started working on the AI, which you might have seen if you watch my shorts. The issue I'm having right now is that the Bulltle is much too easy to get stuck. Since it charges directly at you if it can, it will just run into a wall over and over if given a chance. So I'll have to make it somewhat smarter to allow it to get a straight line of sight before charging, which shouldn't be too difficult. I've also been working on the animations for it just before I injured myself. I'd say somewhere around half the animation assets are done but not implemented yet. Since I made framework for explosive while making grenades, I figured I should also include something explosive. I know a classic red barrel would probably be the best option, but I really wanted to make a fire extinguisher for some reason. It doesn't deal much damage, but it leaves behind a cloud of foam which I find very satisfying. Some people questioned why I bothered so much with stuff like bullet holes and impact sounds, but I personally couldn't have it any other way. It pains me to play a game and shoot a glass bottle just for it to not shatter, punch a TV for the screen to not break. When I play Doom, it's not the graphics that make it feel dated, it's lack of substance to the environment. It doesn't matter if the wall is made of brick, wood or demonic flesh, because all the walls have the same properties with a flat texture applied over them, while newer games like Duke Nukem 3D have so many elements to their environment. Glass shatters when shot, extinguishers explode, taps pour water, alien guts stick to the door when it squishes them. Duke's levels feel like actual places, while Doom's levels feel like cardboard models with texture painted over them. Piggybacking off my manifesto about details, one I really appreciated in Half-Life was the blood splatter that would appear behind a bullet's exit hole. If an enemy was close to a wall, shooting them would result in a blood splatter appearing on the opposite end of the wound. Suffice to say, I created this effect and few others. In the Hazard course, Half-Life tutorial, there's a moment that teaches you about fall damage. You have to jump down from a height onto a target painted on the ground. The notable feature is that the target is surrounded in blood splatters, even though you don't bleed upon taking fall damage. My game changes that. You can't really have a good level without some doors to separate the areas. I wanted to add doors for a long time, in order to start making example levels, but I kept putting it off in the name of something more important. That's why I thought making doors as my first task after coming back would make the most sense. I finished a single model for the door, which is a fire exit with animated handles. I'm still not quite sure about the textures though, so those might get changed at some point. The door can be open and closed to a smooth transition between the states. It can also get locked and unlocked remotely, for the classic video game progression. And I also recreated the sound system Half-Life 2 uses. It would be too complicated to get into specifics of it right now, but I can assure you it works great. The problem I have right now is the sliding doors. Swinging ones just need a single curved controller rotation, but sliding ones are a bit more complicated. If you ever played Half-Life 1, you were probably crushed by doors at least once. Gold Source Engine's physics were created with the crushing behavior in mind, but Unreal does it differently. If it detects that an object is in the way of a door, it will try to teleport the object out of the way, which, to be fair, is the best behavior possible for most of the games. But it won't do for this one. The solution I eventually stumbled upon is creating two custom triggers, one on the door and one on the floor, which would hurt you if you are touching both. Unfortunately, this requires the developer to manually position the two triggers for every door. I figured it would be more convenient for everyone if I automated the system. Big mistake! It was a fucking nightmare and it took 2 hours and I still wasn't even halfway done. Suffice to say, I went with the manual option for now. As of writing this script, the crashing system isn't done yet and the NPCs still cannot open the doors on their own. But I'm quite confident in saying that finishing it won't be a problem, and I'm satisfied with the progress I've made so far. We finally have a gun that isn't ripped off from Half-Life. Well, at least the model isn't. MP5K is now a part of the arsenal the player can carry. It lacks all the animations, can't do weapon animations until the player arms model is made, but it's fully functional. Except there's this. For some reason my weapon shader bends time and space on this weapon, and only this weapon specifically. I have no bloody clue why this happens, as it doesn't happen on any other model. I have found nothing that could lead me to why this problem occurs, and I have zero idea how to solve it. But other than that, everything's dandy. I'm going to be working on a shotgun model next, and I already chose a weapon model it's going to be based on, but I'm afraid it's going to break too. If you've been paying attention to my shorts, you might have noticed this tall fella in the background. It's called Turf Strider, and it's another alien bug you will be able to encounter in the game. Inspired by all the Zen fauna in Half-Life 1, I figured I could use some passive aliens in the later parts of the game. The idea for them came from water striders, a species of bug which can use surface tension to stay on top of water's surface. Land striders have long, fake legs that are mostly comprised of kitten armor. They can't move them very well, but they're incredibly hard to damage, allowing the vital organs to stay high above any danger. Their lack of movement allowed you to skip the AI programming process, which made their implementation vastly easier. Their main purpose is to decorate the alien environment and be the source of alien wailing which will fill the ambience. You can also stand on them. Let me start off by saying that music playback fully works in the game. When someone steps into the music trigger, the currently playing song will be faded out and a new one will be faded in. But that's the less exciting part of this subject. To play music, I need to have any music in the first place. That's why I picked up FL Studio for the first time in my life to hopefully make some. Let me stress that I have never made any music before in my life, and this is an experiment more than anything else. So far I'm enjoying the process, although the things I end up making aren't that great. Right now I don't have a dedicated composer for the game, and I'll probably have to get one eventually, but if that fails, I'll be working on making something by myself. But that seems like a topic for another video. This video was supposed to include a Q&A section, but it's already getting quite long, so I made the decision to split it into two separate materials. But until then, this is where we part ways.